Sign it, Darius. Vanessa, you said we had more time. You had time, Mom. The buyer closes Friday.
Where are they supposed to go?
My parents will be taken care of.
That isn't what she asked.
This house is draining them. The buyer is paying $900,000, and you are the only person holding up the sale. You spent years playing rescuer because you never built anything of your own. Don't sabotage the one deal that can actually help this family.
I'm not signing today.
Under the table, her father pressed something into my hand.
Mr. Hayes, where did you get that? It's nothing.
That stamp says it might not be.
Vanessa took the closing packet with her. She left the pen lying on the table on purpose, where her mother would have to look at it every time she poured a cup of coffee. The screen door banged. Her car backed down the driveway her father had resurfaced himself back when he could still swing a shovel. Then the kitchen went quiet, the way a room does after somebody takes all the air with them. Helen packed her briefcase, gave me a card, and said she would call. Lorraine put both hands flat on the table. "She isn't wrong about the money," she said. "We're behind, Darius. We've been behind since the spring." "I know." "If the deal dies, what happens to us?" That was the part Vanessa understood better than anyone. Fear does most of the work. You don't have to win an argument with a frightened person. You only have to be the one holding the plan. I turned the navy blue envelope over in my hands. It was soft at the corners, the way paper gets when it has been carried and put away for years. "Henry," I said, "why did you keep this?" He took his time. Henry Hayes spent 31 years fixing other people's washing machines, and he never diagnosed a broken thing by guessing. "The man from the settlement gave me a folder the day of the refinance," he said. "Vanessa took it out to her car and said she'd file everything. That envelope was under a magazine on the seat. I put it in my toolbox and never said a word." "Why not?" "Because I didn't have a reason yet." He coughed, that dry rattle that had gotten worse all year. "She told us the money was for the roof, the ramp, and your mother's medical bills. So I waited to see the roof." "You got a new roof?" "I got a patch. Over the back bedroom. 2 men, one afternoon. And the ramp out front, my nephew built with $400 in lumber." He looked at me. "I know what work costs, Darius. Whatever that loan paid for, most of it never touched this house." I did not open the envelope, not then. Part of me knew that once I looked inside, I could not go back to being the son-in-law who came by on Sundays and stayed out of things. Instead, I did what I do for a living. I manage facilities for a company that runs commercial properties, and I know when the numbers on a page stop matching the building in front of me. So I went through the pile of mail on the counter, and I found something that scared me more than the closing packet. The gas bill was addressed to Henry, but the stub said the account had been switched to autopay through a business account. So had the water, the electric, the taxes, the insurance. Every carrying cost of that house ran through an account with Vanessa's name on it. "When did that happen?" Lorraine looked at her hands. "About a year ago. She said it was simpler. She said we were missing due dates." "Were you?" "Sometimes." So it wasn't a lie. That is the thing about my ex-wife. She almost never told a clean lie. She told a true thing pointed in the wrong direction. My phone buzzed while I was standing at the counter. It was her. "I'm stopping the carrying costs after Friday. If you block the sale, they become your responsibility." I read it twice. Then I understood what the pen on the table was really for. She did not just need my signature. She needed me to know that saying no had a price, and that 2 sick people would be the ones paying it. Henry watched my face. "What did she say?" "She said, Friday." He glanced at the envelope in my hand and did not ask me to open it. He waited, the way he used to wait for a compressor to click on so he could hear whether it was dying. I sat back down and slid my thumb under the flap. Inside was 1 page, a carbon copy, purple ink pressed through onto paper gone the color of weak tea. Across the top it said, "Disbursement Summary," and under that a column of numbers. Most of it was ordinary. Payoff of the prior loan, settlement fees, a contractor escrow line smaller than I expected. Then a line 2/3 of the way down made me stop breathing. A wire disbursement, a substantial one. Not to a roofer, not to a hospital, not to an accessibility contractor, to VH Property Group, Vanessa's brokerage. Henry did not say anything. He knew. He had known for years without knowing. The way you know a sound in your house is wrong before you can name it. I did not stand up and announce that my ex-wife had stolen from her parents. That page did not tell me who authorized the wire or whether the money came back. It was 1 page out of a file an inch thick, but it told me one thing, and I built my first plan on it. The sale of that house was not really about Henry and Lorraine. It was about a business, and if I could show that before Friday, I could stop 2 people from being moved out of a home of 30 years by a story that wasn't true. That was my objective. Prove where the pressure was actually coming from. I drove to her office the next morning, not to make a scene. There had been enough of that in the kitchen. Vanessa came out in a pastel pink blazer, her hair in that neat bun she has worn since she was 26. She looked like a woman who had already scheduled this conversation in her head and was annoyed it was starting early. In the conference room, I put the carbon copy on the table and turned it toward her. She read it. She did not flinch. "It was temporary," she said. "Temporary. That business paid half of their bills for years, Darius. Half. Who do you think covered the ambulance ride in February? Who do you think has been paying the gas at that house every month while you were over there tightening cabinet hinges?" That is the trouble with people you used to love. They know exactly which true thing to hand you. "Do they know where the refinance money went?" I asked. They knew enough. That isn't the same answer. She set a folder in front of me, and for the first time that week, she looked tired instead of armored. A debt schedule for the house, not a story. Numbers. The loan had a maturity date coming. The balance was larger than I had let myself imagine. There were late charges, a lien, and a payoff figure that made the $900,000 price look less like a fortune and more like a rescue. "You want to be the good one," she said quietly. "Fine, but if that closing doesn't happen Friday, the carrying costs keep running, the loan matures, the penalties start, and my parents own a house they cannot afford. You can refuse to sign. Just be honest with yourself about who pays for it." I did not have an answer for that. I sat in my truck afterward and did not start the engine. We bought that house together, Vanessa and I. 9 years into our marriage, her parents were 4 months from losing it, and we took our savings and put both our names on the deed so they could stay. Her idea. It was the best thing we ever did together. And I think it was also the last one. After that, the business grew and the family shrank into a line item. Somebody had to take Henry to the pulmonary appointments, so it was me. Somebody had to notice the back step rotting, so it was me. And Vanessa read every year of that as a scoreboard, like I was collecting proof that I loved her parents more than she did. By the end, we weren't fighting about that house. We were fighting about what it meant that I was the one in it. My phone rang while I was sitting there. Helen Mercer. "Mr. Carter, that page you have, there's a problem with it." We met at a coffee place near the county building, and she began by telling me what she could not do. "I am a title officer. I verify ownership and I clear title. I am not your attorney, and I am not investigating anyone." Understood. She studied the copy. "This shows routing, funds going out, and where they went. It does not show authorization, or the full settlement terms, or whether anything was repaid afterward. A carbon copy without the file behind it is not proof of anything except that a page existed." "So it's worthless." I didn't say that. She squared the edges with 2 fingers. "Here is what I can tell you, because it is my job. The lien sitting on that property traces back to this refinance. The debt your in-laws are frightened of, the sale your ex-wife needs, and this page are all one thing." That was the first solid ground I had stood on all week. Everybody had been talking about that sale like it fell out of the sky. It didn't. The reason Henry and Lorraine were being asked to leave on a Friday was a decision somebody made years ago in a settlement office. "Can you get the whole file?" I asked. Archived settlement records sometimes still exist. Sometimes they don't. And I would need proper authorization from an owner of record. "I'm an owner of record." "You are," Helen said, and put on her coat. "Mr. Carter, I can tell you whose name is on title. I cannot tell you what your family should do." That afternoon, I sat at that kitchen table with their permission and a shoebox of paperwork. I was not looking for a smoking gun. I was looking for the operating history, the way I would with a building I had just taken over. 2 things came out of it. The first was that Vanessa's company had genuinely been paying. Not everything, but real money, month after month, for years. The gas, part of the insurance, a stairlift consultation. She had absorbed her parents into her overhead, which is a strange kind of love, but it is not nothing, and I wrote it down so I would not forget it. The second thing was worse. 7 months ago, the direct support stopped. No note, no conversation. And in that same stretch, according to her own mother, Vanessa had started saying the same sentence in every phone call. "Selling the house is your only safe option." She had turned off the support and then presented the consequence as the weather. "Lorraine," I said, "do you want to move?" She folded a dish towel that was already folded. "I don't want Vanessa spending the rest of her life paying for us." "That's not what I asked." She did not answer. She got up and put the kettle on, and I let it go, because there is a point where pushing a frightened person is just another way of doing what Vanessa was doing. By Wednesday morning, my ex-wife had changed weapons. She stopped insulting me, which should have been my first warning. Instead, my cousin called, then a woman from the church. The story going around was that Darius Carter was using two vulnerable elderly people to punish his ex-wife, that he had never gotten over the divorce, that he was holding a signature hostage out of spite. It is a small enough community that a story like that travels in a day and a half. And it was a good story because I could not disprove it without waving around a page I was not sure of. That night, at almost 10 o'clock, my phone rang. Lorraine whispering, "Vanessa wants us to sign something tomorrow." She came at 10 in the morning with a leather folder and a bakery box, which is a combination I have learned to be afraid of. It was not the deed. It was 3 pages of relocation acknowledgement, the kind a broker hands a family so a buyer can be told the property will be delivered empty. Lorraine read the first paragraph and set it down like it was hot. Henry did not read it at all. "Where is this place you keep talking about?" he said. "It's a senior community 20 minutes north," Vanessa said. "1 level, no stairs, a nurse on site 3 days a week. Mom, you would never have to climb anything again." And here is the part I have to be honest about. She was not wrong. That house has 14 steps between the kitchen and the bedroom, and Lorraine had been sleeping in a recliner for 2 months because of it. The bathroom door is too narrow for a walker. I measured it in March. Every argument Vanessa made was one I had made to myself at 2 in the morning. The problem was never her idea. The problem was that she had decided and then come to tell them. "Vanessa," I said, "can I ask them something?" "You're going to anyway." I turned my chair toward Henry. "What would make moving feel like your choice?" Henry looked at me. His eyes were wet, and his voice came out flat and steady. "If I wanted to move." Nobody said anything for 5 seconds. Vanessa's hand went still on the folder, and something crossed her face that was not anger. It was the look of a person whose plan has developed a variable. "You think saying no makes you noble," she said to me. "I think saying nothing for 20 years made me useless. I'm trying not to do that again." She gathered the folder, left the bakery box, and went out the front door, and it closed softer than the screen door had on Monday, which somehow was worse. Lorraine sat down across from me. "She wasn't always like this," she said. "Neither was I." She looked up, and then my mother-in-law told me something that took the floor out from under me. "That refinance," she said. "You asked about it back then. You came in this kitchen with the papers and asked Vanessa what it was all for, and she got sharp with you." Lorraine pressed her lips together. "I'm the one who told you to sign it. I said, just sign it, Darius. Vanessa knows the numbers." I did remember. That is what makes it sit on my chest even now. I stood at that counter with the packet and asked one question. "Repairs and medical," she said, in the voice that meant we were 4 minutes from a weekend-long fight. So I signed. Not because I trusted the answer, because I wanted the weekend. For years, I called that patience. What I did was buy peace on credit and let somebody else make the payments. And the people making them were sitting on either side of me at that table, which meant I could not build this on Vanessa lied, because I had chosen not to look. I told them what was in the envelope: the wire, the brokerage, the fact that one page proves almost nothing. And I told them the part I did not want to say, which was that I had signed the thing that created it. Henry took that in without a word. Then he said, "All right, so what do we do?" The three of us made one agreement. Nobody signs anything else until we know four things: what the house owes, what the buyer's terms are, where they would live, and who gets what money. 4 questions. That was our whole alliance. I called Helen from the driveway and asked whether the archived settlement file still existed. It may. Some of those records survive. I would have to request it through the underwriter's archive with written authorization from an owner of record. How long? Longer than you want. I am not going to promise you a file exists because you need it to. That was Wednesday at noon. The closing was Friday. At 3 o'clock, a black sedan pulled up out front, and a man in a gray suit got out with a leather portfolio, and I knew Vanessa had stopped trying to move Henry and Lorraine and had started trying to move me. His name was Marcus Teague. He represented the buyer, a small acquisition group assembling parcels on that side of the redevelopment line. He was polite about it. That is what made it effective. "We appreciate the family's cooperation," he said, standing, not sitting, because sitting would have meant a conversation. "But we are 2 days from settlement, and I am hearing there may be a title issue. We have 3 other properties under review in this corridor. Without a clear answer by Friday, we move on." He shook Henry's hand and left. The whole thing took 6 minutes. $900,000, walking out the door in a gray suit. Henry stood at the window a long time after the sedan pulled away. Then he said something he had not said all week, and it hurt worse than anything Vanessa had said. Maybe we should take the money. 2 hours earlier, we had an alliance. That is how fast a crack opens when a deadline stands up in your living room. So I stopped arguing about the house and did the one thing nobody had done yet. I ran the numbers. Every quarter I explain to people who own buildings why the number at the top of the page is not the number that reaches the bottom. I took the debt schedule Vanessa had shown me, the payoff on the lien, and the accrued charges, and I called a settlement clerk I know from commercial closings about customary costs on a residential sale in that county. Then I put it on one sheet of paper, in pencil, with no legal words in it. Sale price at the top, loan payoff, accrued interest and late charges, broker commission, transfer taxes, settlement costs, repair credits from the inspection, and a line at the bottom. Henry read it twice, then put his finger on the bottom line. "That's it? That's what's left?" "That's an estimate. It could be a little better. It could be worse." $900,000 is a headline. It is not a number that arrives. After the payoff and the charges and the costs of selling, what would land in their hands was not enough to buy anything, and after 2 or 3 years of rent at that senior community, it would be mostly gone. They were being asked to trade the only thing they had ever owned for a few years of rent and a nurse 3 days a week. "She never showed us that," Lorraine said. "I don't think she ever wrote it down," I said. "She's been selling the price, not the proceeds." I asked Henry for permission, called Marcus Teague, read him the sheet, and asked one question. "When Vanessa presented this property to you, did she tell you it was occupied?" The pause on that line went on a while. We were told it would be delivered vacant at settlement. We understood the occupants were relocating voluntarily. They're her parents, 78 and 74. Nobody has asked them if they want to go. Another pause. Mr. Carter, our timeline is about the acquisition, not the possession. We are not developing that parcel for at least 2 years. If there is a structure where the family stays, that is not automatically a problem for us. Delayed possession, a lease back. But it would have to be papered before Friday, and everyone on title would have to agree. I hung up and stood in that driveway. For the first time, I was not the man refusing to sign. I was the man with the better version of the deal. Helen called an hour later. The line I read on that carbon copy matched a disbursement referenced in the recorded transaction. The routing was real. I called Vanessa that evening. The buyer will look at delayed possession, I said. Full price. Your commission survives. Your parents stay in their house. Friday isn't your deadline anymore. She was quiet for a moment. No, she said. It's yours. Thursday morning, she called a meeting at her parents' house, and everyone came because everyone thought they were coming to negotiate. Helen was there with her folder. Marcus Teague stood by the door. Lorraine sat in her recliner, Henry in the wooden chair he likes. Vanessa came in without the pink blazer. She set one sheet of paper on the coffee table in front of her father and did not raise her voice once in the next 4 minutes. Before this goes any further, she said, everyone should understand what they are actually looking at. I looked down at the page. It was the refinance consent from the original loan. The original, or a certified copy of one. And there, at the bottom, next to hers, was my signature. Not forged, not traced. Mine. My own hand, the same slant I have used since I was 17. He wants you to believe I did this alone, Vanessa said. The room went so quiet I could hear the furnace tick. I want to tell you I had something ready. I didn't. Dad, he has been in your kitchen all week with an envelope, building a case about where money went. He signed for that money. He sat at the same settlement table I did. Whatever he did not ask that day, he chose not to ask. Henry turned his head and looked at me, and his face was not angry yet. It was worse than angry. It was checking. You signed this? Yes. You knew about that loan the whole time? I knew we refinanced. I didn't know where the money went. But you signed it? Yes. And you never told us. He said it slowly, like he was reading a serial number off a machine. All these years, every Sunday, every doctor's appointment, and you never once said, Henry, I put my name on that. I did not have a good answer. I still don't. He's not protecting you, Vanessa said. He's rewriting his own part. Helen cleared her throat, and I could hear how much she did not want to say what she said next. Mr. Hayes, I want to be accurate. Based on the records as they exist today, that refinance carries the consent of both owners of record. There is nothing in the file that would support treating any disbursement from it as unauthorized. That was the sound of my case dying. Marcus Teague looked at his watch, then at the room. Friday at noon, he said. That is the settlement. There is no extension. After that, we release the property. Vanessa did not gloat. That is the thing about her. She just picked up the page, put it back in her folder, and let the room do the rest. I sat there and finally saw the shape of what I had done. I had spent 3 days trying to prove my ex-wife was a criminal, and not 1 hour asking Henry and Lorraine what they actually needed. 12 years ago, I did not ask a question because I wanted peace. This week, I did not ask because I wanted to be right. When everyone left, Henry stood up out of the wooden chair by himself, which took a while, and he did not look at me. "Darius," he said, "I'd like you to go home tonight." Not get out, not I never want to see you. Just go home, in the voice he used with customers when a repair was going to cost more than the machine was worth. I picked up my jacket and I went. I did not sleep much. I sat at my own kitchen table with the navy blue envelope on one side and a copy of that consent page on the other, and I looked at my own name until I stopped arguing with it. "I signed it," I said out loud, in an empty room at 1 in the morning. No but, no she told me, just that, and something turned over in me, because once you stop defending yourself, you have a lot more time to think about other people. Here is what I finally understood. I had been playing to stop the sale, and the sale was not the enemy. The debt was real. The stairs were real. If I killed that closing, I would win an argument on Friday, and Henry and Lorraine would still be in a house they could not afford, with no daughter paying the gas bill. Stopping the sale was not the goal. Giving those two people a real choice before Friday was the goal. And it needed a different method, because everything I had tried was some version of proving Vanessa wrong. No prosecution, no exposure, no holding my signature over anybody's head like a hammer. 3 things. I had until noon Friday. The first was the simplest. I drove back over at 7:30 in the morning with 2 coffees and no documents. Henry opened the door and did not invite me in. He stood there with the storm door between us. "You are right to be angry," I said. "I signed something I didn't read because I didn't want another fight with your daughter. And then I spent 12 years in your kitchen and never told you. That's mine." He looked at me for a long moment. "You want me to say it's all right?" "No, sir, I don't think it is." I held out the coffee. "I want 5 minutes." He took the coffee. He did not open the door, but he did not close it either, and I have learned to take what I am given. "If the debt disappeared tomorrow," I said, "would you choose to leave this house?" "No." Simple as that. No speech. Behind him, Lorraine came into the hallway with her cane. She had been listening. "Not yet," she said. Not because a buyer's calendar says so. That was the answer. It was the thing I had needed since Monday and never once asked in a way that let them answer. The second thing I did was call Marcus Teague. Not as the angry ex-husband holding up his acquisition, as a co-owner of record with a proposal. "The sale closes Friday," I said. "Full price, $900,000. Nobody loses the deal." "I'm listening." "But it closes with occupancy protection written into it. Henry and Lorraine stay in that house as long as they are able to live in it. Recorded, not a handshake. Your group does not take possession Friday, and you don't need it for 2 years. That has a cost to us. Flexibility is worth money." "I know, so here's the rest." I looked at the pencil sheet on my dashboard. A reserve account is set up at settlement out of the proceeds. It pays for maintenance, accessibility work, and a portion of their care. Administered, not handed out. And it is funded by my share. All of your share? Every dollar that would come to me as a co-owner. I don't take a payout. I heard him set something down. Mr. Carter, in 11 years I have not had a seller call and offer to make himself worse off. I'm not making myself worse off, I said, and I meant it. I'm finally paying for something I signed. The third thing was the truth, and the truth had a process. I did not use the carbon copy again. Instead, I asked Henry and Lorraine for written authorization for Helen Mercer to request the archived settlement file through the underwriter as part of clearing title on a transaction I was now a party to. Helen did not do my investigating. She made that clear one more time. I am requesting a file because there is a title question in front of me, she said. If it comes back and it says nothing, it says nothing. I understand. Marcus Teague called me back at 4 o'clock Thursday. The revised structure might work, he said. My people can live with delayed possession at this price. Good. Mr. Carter, he paused. It only works if every party on that deed signs it, which means it only works if Vanessa Hayes agrees. Vanessa found out inside of 2 hours. She called me from her car with the engine running. You went to my buyer. He's my buyer too. My name's on the deed. You have no idea what you just did to my week. Then tell me. For 5 days I have been guessing, and everything I guessed made this worse. And for the first time since that pen hit the kitchen table, my ex-wife told me the truth. Her brokerage had grown fast. A second office, 4 agents, a marketing contract. Then a development deal she had counted on for 2 years collapsed in the spring and took her commission pipeline with it. Her line of credit was coming up for renewal, and the lender wanted to see liquidity. She did not steal anything. She overextended. She built something impressive on a foundation that needed one more good year and did not get it. And the house her parents lived in was the last hard asset with her name on it. So the closing isn't about their debt, I said. It's about both. Her voice was tight. If that sale closes Friday, the payoff clears, the equity I'm entitled to goes where it needs to go, and I keep my line of credit and my company, and I keep paying for them for the next 20 years. If it doesn't close, I lose the credit line, and then I can't pay anybody's gas bill. You could have told them. And say what? She laughed, and it was an awful sound. That their daughter built a company everyone admires, and now she needs help from the house she bought for them? We bought it. The silence on that line went on a while. And there it is, she said. She believed it. She believed everything I had ever done for her parents was a way of collecting credit against her, and I was never going to talk her out of it. It was the story that let her keep going. She was not finished either. Vanessa never runs one play. Friday was not just a closing. Her brokerage had a partnership announcement at a hotel conference center the same morning. A larger regional firm sitting down with VH Property Group in front of people who mattered. She had built the day so the settlement and the handshake happened within an hour of each other, which meant she had 2 outcomes prepared. If I signed the original terms, she controlled the story. If I killed the deal, She had a room full of witnesses to hear how her ex-husband blocked the solution for 2 sick parents. A good backup plan. At 9 that night, Lorraine called, not whispering this time. "I'm coming to the closing." "You don't have to. There's nothing you have to sign." "I know," she said, and hung up. Henry called at 10 and asked me to come by. He was standing in the kitchen with the navy blue envelope in his hand. He held it out. "Take it." "Henry, that page didn't hold up. It doesn't prove what we—" "Take it," he said again. So I did. He looked at me with those wet, steady eyes. "Don't use this to hurt her." "I won't. Use it to tell the truth." Then he coughed for a while, and I got him water. And neither of us said anything else about it. Helen Mercer called at 11:15. The archived settlement file had been located. "What does it say?" "Mr. Carter, I am not going to read you a title record over the telephone at 11 at night. You need to hear it with everyone present." The hotel conference room on the 2nd floor had a wall of windows and a pitcher of water nobody touched. Down the hall, people in good suits stood under a banner with her company's name on it, waiting for a photograph at 11. At the table, Vanessa, Henry in his church jacket, Lorraine beside him, Helen Mercer with 2 folders, Marcus Teague, a lender representative from Vanessa's bank, and a silver-haired woman named Priya Raghavan, the principal from the regional firm, invited to sit in for 10 minutes so she could see how professionally the Hayes family handled things. I wore a dark navy suit. It is the only good one I own. The original closing documents were stacked in the center of the table with a pen laid across them. "The buyer is here," Vanessa said. "The money is ready. We are done turning this into a family therapy session." She pushed the pen toward me. 5 days, and it came right back to where it started. She needed my signature. "I came to sign," I said. She stopped. I watched her recalculate. Half that room relaxed because they thought it was over. Then I put my own folder on the table and slid it across. "On these terms." I read them out loud because Henry needed to hear them, and because I was not going to let anyone characterize them for me later. "The sale closes today at $900,000. The buyer takes title. Henry and Lorraine Hayes keep guaranteed occupancy of that house for as long as they are able to live in it, recorded, not promised. A reserve account is established at settlement for maintenance, accessibility work, and a portion of their care, funded by every dollar of my share of the proceeds. I take no money out of this sale, and any debt tied to that property is allocated in writing in the settlement statement." Marcus Teague spoke first. "We've reviewed it. We can close on that." Vanessa stared at the page, and I knew which line she was stuck on, because it was the one she had no defense against. She had spent 5 days telling everyone I was in it for myself. Then she reached into her bag and put the refinance consent on the table, face up, and turned it toward Priya Raghavan. "Before anyone in this room turns him into a hero," she said, "his signature is on the debt that put us here." And it worked. It still worked. I could feel the temperature in that room change. I did not reach for the paper. I looked at Henry and then at everybody else. "Yes." Nobody moved. "I signed it," I said. "That's my name. Nobody made me. And I signed it because I wanted peace more than I wanted the truth. That was my mistake. And I have been paying for it in that kitchen for 12 years without telling the people it belonged to." Vanessa said. Exactly. You're right, I said. I'm not asking anyone to forget it. I'm asking that it not be used to move two people out of their house. Lorraine put her hand on the table. Darius made a mistake, she said. Vanessa turned toward her mother, and for 1 second, her whole face opened up because she thought she had won. But he admitted it, Lorraine said. She turned to her daughter. Vanessa, in 11 months, you have called me about the roof, the taxes, the buyer, the apartment, and the closing. You have never once asked if I want to leave my house. I was trying to save you. You were trying to decide for us. Vanessa's voice dropped very low. If you reject what I arranged, then understand something. I am not funding a replacement apartment. Not $1. Lorraine's hands were shaking. She is 74 years old, and she has never in her life liked a room with raised voices in it. Then don't, she said. Helen Mercer opened the second folder. I have the archived settlement file, she said, and read it the way she reads everything, flat, without drama. Both owners of record executed the consent, Darius Carter and Vanessa Hayes. A substantial portion of the proceeds was dispersed by wire to VH Property Group. The lien currently encumbering the property traces directly to that transaction, and title cannot transfer clear to the buyer without Mr. Carter's signature. She closed the folder. That is what the record says. It does not say who was right. Nobody spoke. The lender representative was writing. Vanessa looked around that table, and I watched her count what was left, and then she played the last card she had. Fine, she said. Then I walk. I won't sign your version. No signature, no closing. The buyer releases the property, the loan matures, the penalties start, and you can all explain to yourselves how principled you were. She was betting on what she had bet on all week. That when the number got big enough and the deadline close enough, I would fold and hand her the original terms. That's your choice, I said. And then I picked up her silver pen and I signed the revised agreement first. Not the one that made me whole, the one that gave away every dollar I had coming and kept two people in their home. Marcus Teague signed under me. Vanessa stood there doing the math. If she walked, she lost the payoff, the commission, and the liquidity her lender needed to see by month end. And she lost it in front of the lender's own representative, sitting 6 feet away, and in front of Priya Raghavan. Priya stood up, buttoned her jacket, and said the only thing she said the entire meeting. We'll revisit our partnership after your family obligations are settled. Then she walked out to the hallway where the banner with Vanessa's company name was hanging, and I watched my ex-wife understand that the reputation she had protected all week had just become the thing that cost her. She signed, not because she surrendered, because everything she was trying to hold together fell apart faster if she didn't. The deal closed at noon at $900,000. Vanessa kept her company, or most of it. She lost the control, the liquidity she had planned on, and the clean story. Henry and Lorraine did not go anywhere. They are still in that house. The occupancy protection is recorded, so it survives whoever owns the parcel, and the reserve pays the maintenance. The bathroom door is wider now. There is a railing on the back steps and a stair lift running up the 14 steps Lorraine used to sleep at the bottom of. I still come by, and I have gotten better at leaving before anybody has to thank me. Vanessa did not call for 6 weeks. Then on a Sunday she came alone. No blazer, no buyer, no folder. Just her car in the driveway, and her mother let her in and put coffee on, which is its own kind of statement. I was fixing a cabinet hinge that has needed fixing since before the divorce. Vanessa stood in the kitchen doorway. "I was wrong about one thing," she said. I did not ask which thing. I have learned not to help people finish sentences that cost them something. "You weren't holding us back." I set the screwdriver down. "That wasn't the only thing you were wrong about." She nodded. She did not argue. There was no hug, and nobody said the word forgive. She sat with her mother for 40 minutes, then left and came back the Sunday after that. That is where it is. Not repaired, just honest. Before I went home that day, Henry came into the kitchen with the navy blue envelope and held it out to me. I pushed it back. "Keep it." "Why?" he said. "It's over, because I don't need it to remember what happens when I sign something just to keep the peace." He looked at it a second. Then he opened the kitchen drawer with the tape measure and the batteries in it, laid the envelope inside, and slid the drawer shut. Not a trophy, not evidence in a frame, just a reminder in a drawer in a house that 2 people still get to call theirs. I stood in that driveway afterward and looked at the place for a while. For 5 days, I thought my power was in the signature I was holding back. It wasn't. Any coward can refuse to sign. What I finally learned, at 49 years old, is that the strength is in knowing exactly what you are signing for, and being willing to lose something real to make it right. So tell me in the comments, if your ex needed your signature after treating her own parents this way, would you refuse to sign? Or would you do what Darius did? And if you have ever learned the hard way that keeping the peace can cost more than telling the truth, I'd like to hear your story.